When young men and women choose military service as their first career, they accept certain risks. Combat zones, training accidents, occupational hazards. These are understood dangers that come with defending one's country. What families don't expect is for their loved ones to simply disappear, leaving behind only questions and a wall of military silence. For the Harrison family, this nightmare became reality when their son, a promising Army pilot, vanished without explanation after being exposed to classified nuclear testing. What followed was a decades-long quest for truth that would uncover government experimentation, mysterious operatives, and a cover-up that reached the highest levels of military command. This is the story of Lieutenant Michael Harrison, a soldier whose disappearance exposes the dark underbelly of America's atomic age. Born April 25, 1932 in Allentown, Pennsylvania, Michael Harrison knew from an early age that military service called to him. Enrolling in Penn State University's Reserve Officer Training Corps, ROTC, the aspiring soldier graduated in 1954 with both an Army commission and a degree in civil engineering. Harrison's ambitions extended beyond ground operations. By 1956, he had earned his flight wings, becoming an Army aviator qualified to pilot small reconnaissance aircraft for observational missions. As the Cold War intensified and nuclear tensions escalated between East and West, First Lieutenant Harrison received orders that would change his life forever. His first duty station, Camp Mercury, a remote military installation in the Nevada desert that served as ground zero for America's atomic weapons testing program. By 1957, the world teetered on the brink of nuclear war. The United States government had accelerated development of increasingly powerful atomic weapons, creating warheads that dwarfed the bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Camp Mercury served dual purposes, testing these weapons and training soldiers for operations in radioactive environments. Lieutenant Harrison participated in Operation Desert Shield, a series of atmospheric and underground nuclear detonations conducted between May 28th and October 7th, 1957. Of the 29 nuclear blasts during this period, Harrison flew observational missions for at least 5, providing aerial reconnaissance of the explosions and their environmental effects. Official military records stated that all personnel were kept at safe distances from the nuclear detonations. This was a lie. In reality, many tests, including the infamous Scorpion test, deliberately exposed participating soldiers to dangerous levels of radioactive fallout. The purpose was clinical: to observe radiation's effects on human subjects. Flying his small aircraft through radioactive clouds, Harrison became an unwitting test subject in his government's human experimentation program. The effects manifested quickly. Small black moles appeared across Harrison's body, followed by painful rashes resembling chemical burns. Blisters developed on his hands and feet. The radiation attacked his digestive system, causing severe stomach pains that eliminated his appetite. One by one, his teeth loosened and fell out. Military medical personnel, unable to treat advanced radiation sickness, extracted Harrison's remaining teeth and fitted him with dentures. In months, the young pilot had deteriorated from peak physical condition to a shell of his former self. His mental state suffered equally. Once calm and professional, Harrison became paranoid and withdrawn, constantly glancing over his shoulder, as if being watched. In October 1957, he transferred to Fort Irwin, California, where his erratic behavior intensified. Harrison's commanding officer, Lieutenant Colonel Robert Mitchell, noticed the pilot's declining condition, but attributed it to radiation exposure's psychological effects. What Mitchell couldn't explain were the mysterious visitors who began appearing around the base. On multiple occasions, Mitchell observed men in civilian clothes, dark suits, no military identification, moving freely through classified areas, without proper security processing. These individuals regularly engaged in hushed conversations with Lieutenant Harrison, encounters that left the pilot visibly distressed. The timing was significant. These mysterious operatives appeared shortly after Harrison's radiation exposure became severe. Were they monitoring potential whistleblowers? assessing Harrison's likelihood to expose the military's human experimentation program? Harrison himself provided few answers. In his final phone conversation with his brother Carl, he mentioned an important assignment that would make a name for himself, but couldn't provide details due to nearby officers. His excitement was tinged with paranoia. He spoke in whispers, constantly checking his surroundings. July 10, 1958. Lieutenant Harrison told his fellow officers he was going into town for drinks, a welcome development given his recent social isolation. It was the last time anyone at Fort Irwin saw him alive. 2 days later, Carl Harrison called the base hoping to speak with his brother. Despite months of attempted contact, Paul had been unreachable since their cryptic phone conversation. The base operator delivered shocking news. Lieutenant Harrison was listed as AWOL, absent without official leave, as of the previous day. More disturbing was what happened next. Despite Harrison being missing less than 24 hours, base personnel had already begun packing his personal belongings for shipment to next of kin. This violated military protocol. Families should be notified before possessions are cleared, and AWOL status doesn't justify immediate disposal of personal effects. To Carl, it seemed the Army already knew his brother wasn't coming back. In August 1958, Harrison's status changed from AWOL to deserter. Lieutenant Colonel Mitchell was stunned. During Harrison's service at both Camp Mercury and Fort Irwin, he had shown no signs of poor conduct or insubordination. Given his declining health, his disappearance should have triggered immediate search efforts. Instead, Mitchell encountered resistance when seeking information about his missing officer. Higher command urged him to drop the matter and focus on other duties. No search parties were organized. No investigators contacted Harrison's family. The military seemed content to let the matter disappear. Harrison's vehicle was discovered a week after he was declared a deserter, not by military authorities, but by a California fish and game warden. The 1956 Chevrolet sat abandoned in Death Valley, over 500 miles from Fort Irwin, 40 miles from the nearest town, and 15 miles from any main road. The car was in rough condition from desert exposure, but showed no signs of damage or foul play. Keys remained in the ignition. Dog tags bearing Harrison's name were found alongside a small briefcase of personal belongings. The Army's conclusion was swift and convenient. Lieutenant Harrison had suffered a mental breakdown due to stress from an upcoming assignment. In his confused state, he abandoned his post, drove to Death Valley, and wandered into the desert to die of exposure. A formal search for Harrison's remains didn't begin until 9 months after his car's discovery. Far too late to find any trace of human remains in the harsh desert environment. Carl Harrison refused to accept the military's explanation. Over the next 25 years, he conducted his own investigation, uncovering evidence that suggested something far more sinister than desertion or suicide. According to guest records at Wheeler's Motel in Mojave, California, someone using Harrison's name checked in on July 10th and out the next day. A gas receipt found in the abandoned car showed a purchase of 14 gallons of fuel in Mojave, enough to reach Death Valley. However, Carl questioned whether his brother actually drove beyond Mojave. The evidence suggested the motel was a rendezvous point where Harrison met unknown contacts, who then commandeered his vehicle to dispose of it in Death Valley. Supporting this theory was testimony from the game warden who discovered the car. The ground around the vehicle was littered with cigarette butts, yet Harrison had never smoked. A local ranger reported seeing a vehicle matching Harrison's description around the time of his disappearance, but the driver wore formal military attire. Harrison had left Fort Irwin in civilian clothes, and no military uniform was found in his abandoned car. Carl's investigation revealed a disturbing pattern. Another Army aviator who served alongside Harrison at Camp Mercury had met a similar fate. First Lieutenant David Burke, a close friend of Harrison who also participated in nuclear testing observations, took off from Bishop, California in a reconnaissance plane on July 22, 1958, just 12 days after Harrison's disappearance. Burke's plane vanished. In September 1959, wreckage was discovered on Mount Whitney in the Sierra National Forest. Oddly, The wreckage reportedly bore a different serial number than the aircraft Burke had originally taken off in. When Carl formally requested information about his brother's case through the Freedom of Information Act in 1978, the FBI claimed they had burned all documents relating to the investigation in December 1977, mere months before his inquiry. Two theories. Recruitment or murder. Carl's research led him to two possible explanations for his brother's disappearance. Theory 1. Covert recruitment. Harrison was approached by intelligence operatives, possibly CIA, and recruited for a top-secret mission. Given his advanced radiation sickness, he was essentially a dead man walking, making him expendable for dangerous clandestine operations. This would explain his cryptic phone call about an important assignment and the presence of mysterious operatives at the base. Theory 2. Elimination of a potential whistleblower. The mysterious men in black suits were not recruiters, but intimidators, assessing whether Harrison might expose the military's human radiation experiments. When they determined he posed a security risk, they orchestrated his disappearance and murder. This theory explains the paranoia Harrison exhibited in his final months and the military's immediate assumption that he wouldn't return. Both theories are supported by historical precedent. The CIA conducted numerous covert operations using expendable assets, while government agencies routinely eliminated potential whistleblowers during the Cold War era. In 1982, Carl presented his findings to the Army Board of Corrections. While no new federal investigation was launched, a 3-day hearing concluded there was no evidence supporting Harrison's deserter status. His classification was officially changed to died in the line of duty. However, the Army provided no explanation for what actually happened to him. The Harrison case bears striking similarities to encounters with so-called men in black, mysterious operatives who intimidate witnesses of classified activities through veiled threats. Beginning in the late 1940s, numerous individuals reported visits from dark-suited men following UFO sightings or other sensitive observations. While no direct UFO connection exists in Harrison's case, one detail adds intrigue. Camp Mercury sits directly adjacent to Area 51, the classified facility long associated with experimental aircraft and alleged extraterrestrial technology. Harrison's aerial reconnaissance missions placed him in proximity to some of America's most sensitive military secrets. To this day, no trace of Lieutenant Michael Harrison has been discovered. His disappearance remains officially unexplained. His family denied closure after decades of investigation. The case represents a broader pattern of government secrecy and expendable soldiers during the atomic age. Thousands of military personnel were deliberately exposed to radiation during nuclear testing programs, their health sacrificed for scientific data. Many developed cancers, genetic disorders, and other radiation-related illnesses. Some, like Harrison, simply vanished when they became inconvenient. The military's immediate classification of Harrison as a deserter, combined with the destruction of FBI records in the presence of unidentified operatives, suggests a coordinated cover-up reaching the highest levels of government. Whether Harrison was murdered to protect state secrets or recruited for a mission he never survived, his fate serves as a chilling reminder of how governments treat their own people when national security is at stake. Carl Harrison's 25-year quest for truth exemplifies the determination of families seeking answers about loved ones lost to classified operations. His evidence, while circumstantial, paints a disturbing picture of military personnel disappearing when they become liabilities to their own government. The atomic age demanded sacrifices from America's military personnel. Most served honorably and returned home to their families. Others, like Lieutenant Michael Harrison, became permanent casualties of their nation's quest for nuclear supremacy, not killed by enemy action, but erased by the very government they swore to defend. In the desert of Nevada, where nuclear fire once lit the sky and radiation poisoned the earth, the secrets of the atomic age remain buried. Some truths are too dangerous for governments to acknowledge, some sacrifices too shameful to commemorate. Michael Harrison's name appears on no memorial wall, his sacrifice acknowledged by no official record. He exists only in the memories of those who loved him, and the determination of those who refuse to let his story disappear into the classified shadows of America's nuclear past. The truth, like radiation itself, has a long half-life. Someday, the secrets of Camp Mercury and the fate of Lieutenant Harrison may finally see the light of day. Until then, his family's quest for answers continues, a testament to the enduring power of love over government secrecy. Some mysteries demand investigation. Some truths demand justice. Some stories demand to be told.